Welcome to the HR Kyle podcast, your go-to source for insightful discussions on leadership, job searching, and all things human resources. I'm your host, HR Kyle, and each week we dive deep into topics relevant to professionals seeking to elevate their careers and organizations. Whether you're a seasoned leader, a job seeker navigating the ever-changing landscape of employment, or an enthusiast looking to stay ahead of the curve, this is the podcast for you. Join me as we explore practical strategies, share expert insights, and engage in meaningful conversations that empower you to succeed in today's dynamic workplace. So, adjust your headphones and let's dive in. Hello and welcome to another edition of the HR Kyle podcast. And as always, I'm your host, HR Kyle. We're so glad you could join us today. Today's topic is one that you've heard us talk about before. And we're not repeating this topic because we're lazy and we couldn't come up with something better. We're repeating it because of just how important it is to the workplace and in the workplace, and that is the topic of wellness. And in segment one, as we always do, Becki and I are going to approach this topic and certainly share our perspective around the topic and our thoughts and our experiences. And again, as usual, we will have a guest in the studio for segment two to share their expertise as a practitioner around the topic of wellness in general, but specifically how it relates and impacts the world of work. So we're going to take a quick break. And when we come back, Becki and I are going to dive headfirst into the topic of wellness in the workplace. So we'll be right back.
Are you ready to find the career you love? Navigating today's job market alone can be overwhelming and costly. Outdated templates and generic approaches can waste your time and lead to missed opportunities. That's where HR Kyle's career search services come in. With over 25 years of talent acquisition experience, Kyle Patrick Smith is here to guide you every step of the way. We specialize in crafting eye-catching resumes, preparing you for interviews, and helping you discover the careers where you'll truly thrive. Our trusted network of recruiters opens doors to exclusive roles you won't find on job boards. Our clients don't just search. They land jobs with focus and direction, using effective, up-to-date strategies. If you're serious about your career, visit hrkyle.com or call 330-5554-5264 for your free consultation. Don't waste another day with outdated methods. Your dream job is within reach.
And we're back. As you can see, busy as usual here at HR Kyle. And I'm going to take a moment here in segment one to welcome back my co-host and the person who runs segment one, HR Kyle Becki. HR Kyle Becki, welcome back.
Thanks, Kyle. I'm glad I run something in this partnership.
Yep, you're in charge of segment one of each HR Kyle episode, and that's pretty important. So as always, I'm going to turn the floor over to you, and let's get started.
Okay. So let's start off with talking about wellness and why it's so critical to the workplace success.
Well, the obvious one is physical wellness, right? The person feels physically well. They're not hurt. They're not injured. They're not suffering from some other ailment that physically impacts their work. And again, there's plenty of jobs out there that require physical exertion of some sort, but all jobs require some level of physical exertion. Even if you're sitting at a desk all day, there is some physical exertion there. And if that's impacted, obviously that is going to impact your productivity. You're not going to work as fast. You're not going to be as productive. You're not going to get through your task list and so on. So the physical is obvious. And if your job requires some level of mobility and you have an injury of some sort, obviously that's going to be impacted. But the other one that I think is starting to get more attention as it should, and that is mental wellness. So that thinking aspect. How am I feeling mentally about my job? How is my motivation affected? How is my psyche affected? How is my confidence affected? And we're seeing more and more, thankfully, that that's getting the attention it deserves, because you and I both know that that can have as much or more impact on our performance than a physical ailment.
Yeah, definitely. And I know I've experienced that in different workplaces. That Sunday scaries that we talk about, and get our minds transitioning over to the work week.
And just think about how that impacts your performance on Monday morning, because already you're starting at a low point. You know, it's like your car's fuel tank. If it's already hovering around E, the more you drive it, it's not going to all of a sudden get refueled. You're going to have to
Right.
do something. In this case, go to a gas station and get gasoline, or if it's an electric vehicle, you're going to have to plug it in somewhere and get it fueled up with electricity. So imagine that we're starting our week already on a Sunday where our tank is already depleted.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, it's not
That's
going
a
to
great
get better as the
analogy.
week goes on. Go ahead.
That's a great analogy. Yes, exactly.
And I don't know about you. I always like to have a full tank of gas at the beginning of the week, because that's when I'm going to be my
Definitely.
most
Yep.
active.
Yes, exactly.
So again, the impact that has on us, even beyond what we realize, is just the productivity. And we always talk about this phrase of engagement in organizations, and it is important because engagement is measurable. Engagement is taking an interest in your job. It's going above and beyond. It's thinking outside the box, as the phrase goes. It's doing the things that help the business exceed expectations versus just maybe meet expectations. And all
Right.
of this is affected if we don't have the right mindset. And that's a
Right.
big part of what wellness is. It's a mindset thing. I mean, how many of us have seen someone who has some sort of physical disability, but yet they're happy, they're thriving, and so on? But how many of us have seen someone that seems physically fine, but yet they're suffering something mentally or psychologically, and they're not fine. They're not taking full advantage of what the world has to offer. They're clearly not soaking up the joy that is living each and every day.
Wow. And then they live those day to day because of what's the next step. I have to go to work tomorrow. I have to go to work tomorrow. They keep pushing through again with the takes not full.
Right. And they're stuck in that cycle. And what we also know, and again, we've lived this, they're not only adversely affecting themselves and their performance, they're having that influence on everyone around them.
Yes.
None of us have ever been in a situation where we've interacted with someone who is down and feeling horrible and just not giving off a real positive vibe. None of us have ever left that situation saying, God, I feel so energized now after interacting with Debbie Downer. No one's ever said
Right.
that.
Yeah.
It's not going to happen. So the thought that, oh, that person is not in a good spot, but hey, they'll get through it. No, it proliferates your work group, your department, your company. It has an influence. And imagine that person interacting with your customers, your clients, your potential
Right.
customers and clients. What sort of
Yep.
impact are they having on that person and your
Oh,
company's image?
yeah, I've seen that a lot too in many different places that I've worked.
Yep, same here.
Yeah. So when trying to prioritize this wellness, what are some common challenges that organizations and leaders face, and how can they overcome them?
Well, one of the big challenges is people realizing just how impactful it is. You know, so often as leaders at an organizational, operational level, we're really good at measuring things that are tangible. You know, we can measure productivity if we're in a manufacturing plant or on an assembly line. We can see how many pieces went through and so on. But what we can't often measure is what we were describing, the negative impact that, you know, mental unhealthiness has upon the organization. It's hard to measure that because oftentimes we don't have a standard. You know, we can't say, okay, when everybody's feeling really good, this is what the company looks like. And when everybody's not, this is what we look like. And especially you see this in service industries and service positions.
Right. Well, and oftentimes people go into work. They're like, I know people who will sit in their car and put on that smiley face and then walk in like everything's good.
Right.
My life is good, work's good, everything's good.
Well, and what's interesting is those people are under the illusion that they're fooling someone. But anyone who is around them for any length of time or has an interaction with them and has that ability to pick up on these things, they pick up on the fact that that person's not happy.
Mm-hmm.
They're not faking it till they make it, because they never make it. They're just simply faking it. And sooner or later that shield falls down, that guard or whatever you want to call it, that it becomes non-existent. So you can see that the person's unhappy and they're just not doing their best. It always comes through.
Well, and that's what I was going to say. You talked at the beginning about productivity, because that person's productivity is going to start slacking and decreasing.
Well, there's no question, because their focus isn't on being energized and getting their work done. Again, imagine yourself, you wake up in the middle of the night. Are you as productive at 3 a.m, which is out of the ordinary, versus your normal time when you wake up, which is 8 o'clock? Well, of course
Right.
not. And to me, it's the same thing as it relates to wellness. And again, we're focusing a lot on this episode on the psychological and the mental wellness because of just the huge impact. But even in those situations, we know there's a relationship. There's some level of relationship between our mental health and our physical exertion, our physical energy.
Well, definitely. So
So
then how can individuals incorporate these wellness practices into their daily lives so they don't take it to work, they don't show it to other people? What can they do?
well, first and foremost, they've got to be aware of it and realize that it's not good. I've seen so many people that just accept it. Well, this must be, all that life is about, being unhappy and hating your job and dreading
Mm-hmm.
going in and, counting the hours till it's 5 and counting the days till it's Friday. It's interesting too. It's become such a part of our, just our lexicon, at least in the U.S. You hear people talk and it's so common to say, well, it's almost 5, I'm almost done. Well, at least it's Friday. There
Right.
seems to be this common thread amongst our society to dread your job and to count
Right.
down the hours and the days to when it's over. And again, I'm a Christian person. I'm a religious person. So I believe that we're given these days, and the thought to me of, counting down and just acting like we're wasting these hours and days, these are precious. You don't get these hours and these days back. So to think that, as a society, almost we've accepted the fact that, we're going to have these 8 to 9 to 10 hours a day, 5 days a week, that we're really not going to be that happy. We're going to be counting down so we can get through it. That's kind of a sad commentary on what it means to work. So how do you get around it? You make yourself aware of it, that one, it happens, and two, that it's not normal. Now, I've said that with so many things. I use the same example with, being in poverty or being in challenging situations. One, you've got to realize, you've got to have an awareness that it's happening. And two, you've got to realize that it's not normal.
Mm-hmm.
And that's how you change it. And it's the same way with this. Being unhappy, like I say, we've accepted it in the U.S., at least in the U.S., that it's normal to not like your job and be counting down the days. But that's not normal. That's not healthy. There's nothing good about that. So we start off first by saying, no, this isn't normal. This isn't going to be my normal. I don't want this. What do I need to do to change it? And for us, we work with clients to change their jobs and make sure that they understand. Like I always say, be sure you're going to something. And that's why I say that.
Right.
If you're going to make a job change, go to something that energizes you, that you're excited about, that you feel good about. So you're not counting the hours till 5 and the days till Friday. So, get some awareness of what makes you get up in the morning. And I talk to a lot of people, it's hard to do because we got to make a living, but don't put such a priority on the dollars, the income, and letting that be the driver. I remember a quote from John Lennon. I don't know if the story is true or not, but he said when he was in elementary school, the teacher asked, what do you want to be when you grow up? And his answer was happy. And There's a lot of truth to that. I think that was a wise statement if he in fact said that as a little boy, because that's what we should be striving for. Not, I want to be a doctor or I want to be a this or that. Start off with being, I want to be happy. And how do I achieve that? Through a career that allows me to support myself and my family or whatever you're hoping to support.
Right. And I work with students who just graduated from high school, and I find too many of them, if they don't have a plan, they just go and they get a job. And then before you know it, 3 months, they're at another job, and then they're at another job. So I just, a couple of days ago, asked one of my students, said, what is your dream job? And she said she wanted to work with animals.
Okay.
So I put her on the path of a local pet store, and there's 5 or different places she could do there. And that's her dream job, to work with animals.
Well, and what's interesting about the story that you shared is most people have reasonable dreams and aspirations. There's a few, I want to be a professional basketball player. Or I want to be this or that. I want to be a millionaire. Well, again, that's not a career. But most people, like you say, they have reason. I want to work with animals. Well, good grief. There's a lot of opportunities in the world to do that. Or I enjoy writing, or I enjoy being creative. Well, guess what? There are jobs that exist where you can do that.
Well, and even in this case, that doesn't mean just because she likes to work with animals, that doesn't mean she has to go to college. That doesn't mean she has to be a vet. That's, where we were just at that local pet store last night, and they have different things that she could be doing and still be around animals. So she can start at a lower level and then just work her way up.
Exactly. Well, and again, you're making a unrealized pitch for my book, but that's exactly what I talk about in my book. Go through a process of saying, what do I enjoy doing? What are the things that I get joy from in life? And then, then you start thinking about the path, and you start thinking about it's that first step, like you say, is just think about what makes me happy? What do I enjoy doing? Hers, in the case, the example that you gave is working with animals. Okay, how do I achieve that?
Right.
I don't want to oversimplify it, because it's not. If you say, well, my joy is helping people become healthy and so on, or curing illnesses. Well, okay, the path there is college, and it's going to be quite a few years and so on. It's not unattainable, but it's not going to be simple. It's going to take quite a few years. So again, we're not oversimplifying it. But I think what we're saying is, relative to wellness, the first step is ask yourself what makes you happy. What do you have joy from? Because when we talked about earlier about the tank almost empty, well, as humans, the only way really to refill that tank is joy. We are fueled in life through energy. And the most effective way to generate energy in a person is happiness, joy, that feeling of good. That's how we recharge our batteries as humans, or fuel our tank as humans.
Right. So then, kind of getting back to this, workplace in general, what role does leadership play in fostering this culture of wellness, and what actions can the leaders take?
Well, the first thing leaders do with so many things that can have a positive impact in the workplace is walk the walk. A lot of leaders are very good at talking the talk. And they get this when they attend conferences and trainings and all this stuff. They hear all this good stuff, and it sounds really good. And that makes sense logically, because, we're good at training people to follow our point of view when we're trainers. So that it sounds very logical. But what happens is they don't walk the walk. They're the ones that are walking around the office 5:30 or 6, or checking the parking lot at that time to see who's still there.
Right.
And they're holding that as a standard. Or, they're the ones that are hearing that someone's working from home a few days a week. And that can't be right. No attention to productivity, because that's not what they're looking for. They're looking to see who's working from home. Who came in late today. They don't bother to find out the reason was, due to something they need to take care of. So they're not promoting in an actionable sense the things that their employees should be doing. So a big part of it's walk the walk. If you want employees to lead healthy and happy lives so they can be productive for you, then start by doing that yourself. Don't be the one walking around the office that's grouchy and unhappy and
Right.
and bragging about how many hours you put in and that you missed your child's school program and all this and that. Those aren't badges of honor.
Yep.
That's shame. But what you're doing by talking about those things is you're sending a message to your employees that that's the way they're supposed to be.
Right. And then people get scared to ask for that time off or to leave when they need to.
Right.
Yeah, they get nervous.
I know, and
unfortunately,
I've been in those stupid situations. Not going to doctor's appointments because of something will work. Think about how ridiculous that is.
Yep. And unfortunately, Kyle, we know people who work in those situations, and as you said, they have to realize it first, and
Yep.
too many people don't realize that that's not normal.
Yep.
And then to possibly just change the pathway on their own.
100%. Yep. They work in those situations where the boss will guilt them. Not directly. That's the worst part about it is it's typically, covert. It's not
Right.
overt, but there's these little subtle messages that are shared that it makes it clear that we don't worry about our wellness here and health. We don't worry about that. We work as many hours as we have to do. We miss as many things as we have to miss. We work on weekends and evenings here. That's what we do because that's what it takes to make this company run. Well, no, that's a misguided approach. And to me, it's exploiting.
Agree. Definitely.
So, but again,
as usual, great conversation. Just a very good subject that everybody needs to read about, talk about, listen to. Yep.
And take stock of it for yourself.
Yes.
Ask yourself what brings you joy and happiness and refuels your tank so that you can do the things in this world that you're supposed to do and make an impact like you're supposed to make. So I agree with you, Becki. Great discussion today. Thank you for leading it. We probably ran a little bit long, but this is one that I'm passionate about because I see the negative impact in the workplace where people are not taking care of their well-being and how it impacts them individually. It impacts their families, impacts the people around them, and leaders out there listening. It ultimately impacts your organization. Your organization is not nearly as productive as it could be because your employees are not happy.
Yep,
so
exactly.
Again, great discussion. We're going to take a quick break here, gang. And when we come back, we've got a guest who's going to talk to us and share with us her immense expertise around the topic of health and wellness, and especially as it relates to the workplace. So stick with us. We're going to take a break and we'll be right back. Greetings. I'm Kyle Smith, and I'm here to offer you a speaking experience that goes beyond the ordinary. With a rich background in leadership, HR, and personal development, I bring a unique blend of expertise and passion to every presentation. Whether it's Leadership Unleashed, well-being at work, or career mastery, I delve into topics that empower individuals and organizations to reach their fullest potential. What sets me apart? Proven expertise, an engaging delivery style, and actionable insights that drive positive change. But here's the kicker. I don't just offer a one-size-fits-all approach. I customize my content to meet the specific needs and goals of your event. So let's elevate your event together. Contact me now to reserve your date and unlock the full potential of your audience and organization. Don't miss out on the opportunity to inspire greatness. Visit hrkyle.com today. Hello, fellow professionals. Are you ready to revolutionize your approach to recruiting? I'm HR Kyle, and I'm thrilled to introduce you to my latest book, Recruiting is Easy, now available on Amazon and other online retailers. In today's dynamic HR landscape, it's all about strategic branding and engagement. My book unveils the secrets to crafting exceptional employee experiences, attracting top talent, and fostering strong connections. With Recruiting is Easy, you'll master the art of continuous improvement and adaptability, shaping the future of work one relationship at a time. Get your copy today and unlock the potential of HR as a strategic powerhouse. Remember, recruiting should be easy. I'm HR Kyle, and together, let's redefine recruiting. Look for Recruiting is Easy on Amazon and other book online retailers. Hello and welcome to segment 2 of the HR Kyle podcast. I'm your host, HR Kyle. Hope you enjoyed that brief break and learning a little bit more about some of the things that we're up to. Well, we're going to continue with the theme that we started in segment 1, talking about wellness. But we're fortunate to welcome a guest into our studio who's much more of an expert on this topic than I am. Her name is Julieanna Hever. And Julieanna, amongst a lot of things, is an experienced dietitian who's a leader in the health, wellness, and fitness industry. She's written now 9 books around these topics, and she's also a regular speaker around the U.S. around the topics of health, wellness, and fitness. So, Julieanna, welcome to the HR Kyle podcast.
Thank you so much, Kyle.
Well, it's great to have you. We'll start off easy, Julieanna, and then we'll make the questions much more tougher. So the first question,
I'm ready.
The easiest one is going to be, tell us about yourself.
Okay. Well, I am a registered dietitian. I'm an author, as you mentioned. I'm a mom of 2 teenagers, one finishing his senior year of high school and another off in college, which is unbelievable. And I am really passionate about helping people eat healthier and actually transform their relationship with food and their bodies.
Well, you and I share a couple things in common. My son just started college just last week as well. He started his classes this week, but we moved him in last week. So I can definitely relate to that.
Congrats.
Yeah, thank you. You too. It's one of those bittersweet things, of course, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Totally.
Well, the other interesting thing that you mentioned there that struck a chord with me is talking about the relationship with food. And would you mind elaborating on that a little bit further? Because I think it leads well into the discussion that we're going to have today.
Certainly. Yes, that's actually what I did my TEDx talk on, because food is so powerful. It is integrated in every single part of our life. It's not just nourishment. It is, represents family and connections and relationships and culture and religion and, every single part of your life, entertainment, everything is surrounded by food. We entertain with food. We mourn over food. We bond. We break bread with food. And it is so central in all of our lives. And interestingly, I work with clients and I've spoken to audiences all around the world. And I find it so fascinating that so much of how we think and feel about our relationship to food is so similar, despite where we are in the world and, our backgrounds and all of that, which has been really kind of mind-blowing for me. But, we have emotional connections to food. We have all sorts of different connections. And I think that it's important to understand your relationship, and you want to, aim for healthy. Healthy is really important because the number one cause of early death and disability in the world, ahead of smoking, is diet. It's that powerful. And I find that to be the most empowering statistic, because you are quite literally what you eat, and you get to decide what you put on the end of your fork. So it's a very empowering statistic, and we can make our relationship with food whatever we want. We really do get to choose, and we get to recreate it as often as we like.
Well, thank you for elaborating on that, because I think that's a key point. At least, there's several key points that you made there, and talking about it as a relationship, because it does represent that kind of give and take that we look for in other parts of our relationship. And it really makes me think of the next question I want to ask with you. And that's the fact that, just like with dating and relationships, so many of us are really good at the starting point, right? We're really good at starting a relationship, or we're really good at starting more of a focus on health and wellness. But then things get in the way, life gets in the way, other obligations, and so on. What are some of the strategies that you would recommend, or lifestyle changes that you would recommend to help us stay on target and to have that healthy relationship going forward with nutrition and wellness?
Well, nothing about eating is static, and nothing about a relationship with food in our bodies is static. We are verbs. We are constantly evolving. We're constantly changing. We recreate our entire body. I think it's like 97% of all of our cells are recreated every year. So you are not who you were when we started our conversation. That's how, everything is constantly moving and changing. So with that fluidity and that dynamism, I think it's a really kind of opportunity to think about it in that way. There is no such thing as a perfect diet. It does not exist. You can't eat a perfect diet. So that eliminates any pressure or stress. You are, in motion. And what is your decision right now? My last book I called the Choose You Now Diet, meaning that you get to choose in every decision, bite after bite, meal after meal, year after year, but you don't have to think about next year, next week, or next month. You just have to think about right now. So not beating yourself up, not aiming for perfection, just making small choices, small decisions that can impact you positively. And the beautiful thing about that is that success breeds success. Every time you make a good decision and every time that leads to becoming a habit, the automaticity that occurs with practice and consistency. Every time you establish that and flex that muscle, it gets stronger and better, and it perpetuates itself because then you feel better and you like the way you felt when you made that decision. So then you're more likely to make a similar decision going forward. So all you have to do is stay present and try to make those decisions on an ongoing basis as current as possible, not worry about next week and not worry about perfection. So small little changes like, we now know that eating about 7 to 10 servings of fruits and vegetables in a day is one of the best things you can do for your health. That's not so hard. I do all these videos kind of showing and demonstrating how easy it is, even though it sounds like a lot, to get 7 to 10 servings of fruits and vegetables in your day. But doing that will decrease your morbidity and mortality. It'll help with weight management. It will optimize your overall nutrition, giving you the really important fiber and phytonutrients that are so protective and so health promoting that we all need to kind of focus on that. So a fun way to, insert that goal is try to eat the rainbow every day. Have fun with that. And obviously not from M&Ms and Skittles, but from actual whole foods. If you get the different colors every day, you're getting a whole wide spectrum of nutrition that's going to give you a lot of these health span benefits I'm talking about. So start small. And the most important thing overall is consistency.
Great thoughts. And folks, we're talking to Julieanna Hever, and she obviously is very passionate about this topic of health, wellness, and fitness. And that's, Julieanna, that's coming through loud and clear. And it's something I can relate to, as having a passion for the things that I do and I get involved in. And what I like about what you said, and again, there's a lot to like there, but it's okay to cut yourself a break. That is what we're not looking for. We're not looking for perfection. We're looking for a steady repetition of success and positive outcomes and progress, realizing that from time to time there might be a little setback, but we shouldn't dwell on it. We should continue to look forward towards our goals, just like we would all of the other things that we look to attain in life.
Thank you for saying that, Kyle. I appreciate that a lot. And yes, all that matters is what you do over the long run, what you do overall, like your routine. So let's say you establish some of these healthy habits. You're eating, more fruits and vegetables, 7 to 10 servings a day. You're, eating you give yourself a few hours before bed to digest, you finish digestion. You stop eating at a certain time and give yourself some time to finish digestion and absorption before you go to bed. That's a really helpful tool in our chronobiology. You make these little kind of decisions. And if you do those little things over and over and over again, that's your basis. Now, let's say you go off, let's say it's the holidays or a special, something or other, and you eat off plan, or you eat right before bed, or you don't have all your fruits or vegetables. It doesn't matter because you have this baseline. So all the psychology of it is, okay, I did this, tomorrow is back on plan. And I hate that concept of cheat day. And I always try to reframe that for this purpose. I call it a day of deliciousness. Because instead of feeling guilty or regretful or shameful about any of these decisions, because you're human and we are adapted to survive in times of scarcity. And of course, we're going to eat these highly hyperpalatable foods. And of course, you're human. So giving yourself that forgiveness is really important. So a day of deliciousness is more like a scheduled, it's a holiday and I'm going to eat my aunt's, banana pie that I love so much. And you're going to look forward to it and you're going to enjoy every bite with no regret, no guilt or shame. But all that matters is the next day you're back on your plan, back to routine. Then no harm, no foul. You can enjoy all of the things that you love to enjoy food-wise and still have your health too, because all that matters is what you do on the day-to-day basis.
Wonderful. The other thing that stands out too, Julieanna, is a very positive outlook on this. Like at no point are you condemning someone for the mistakes that they might make with their diet or whatever. It seems to always be about, hey, focus on the positive. Even the change in terminology comes through. So definitely appreciate that. I'm sure that's resonating with my listeners as well. So what you've talked about so far is kind of this consistent schedule of, day in, day out, what our lives look like. But there are a fair amount of professionals, and you and I both know this, they travel, they have to eat on the go, they have an inconsistent work schedule, whatever it may be. So their day-to-day doesn't have that typical pattern to it that's predictable. How can that person adjust their health and wellness routine on a regular basis in order to still meet their health, wellness, and fitness goals?
It's a great question. And most of my clients are constantly traveling and working on all sorts of different schedules and traveling internationally and all the different things that can be obstacles for a lot of people. However, I will say this. If you want it, you can have anything you want. So you start with building this routine. You prioritize certain things. You prioritize that you're going to make sure you get fruits and vegetables every day. You prioritize that you're going to get a certain amount of steps in a day. Whatever it is, you can make that work no matter where you go. And the more you travel, the easier this becomes because you just start learning different things. Like I do a lot of weight loss transformations. So my clients have a little travel scale and that sticks to their scale so that, it's consistency. Or, they know how to eat out. I teach my clients how to eat at restaurants because that's inevitable if you're traveling a lot. Or finding, markets nearby and finding salad bars or finding ways to get healthier options, looking at menus ahead of time. All of these things are just kind of the details that you can figure out if you want it. So it's all about setting your plan. What are you looking for? What is your intention with your health? What is your routine? And getting into that. Obviously, it helps to get started and do all this at home when you're in your environment. But once you have that, it translates anywhere you are in the world.
Well, in other words, Julieanna, it all comes down to commitment. Are you as committed to these health, wellness, and fitness goals as you might be committed to some of your other goals in life? And as you started this conversation today, this is very much a life or I wouldn't maybe go so far as to say death, but certainly a life and quality of life discussion.
It is indeed. It actually is life and death because, like I said, diet is the number one cause of early death and disability. And, I call myself now the health span dietitian because what matters is not how long you live. It matters, how many life is in your years, not years in your life, right? It's about quality of life. You just said you have children and going off to college and you want to be able to, watch them grow up and play with your grandchildren someday, whatever the goals may be for people. Feeling good and having your vitality and your cognition and your energy is priceless. It's an investment in everything. And you don't have to suffer for that because you should also find foods that you love just because things are healthy. Like I'm very passionate about finding delicious foods and telling my clients that you have to love your food. Otherwise you're not going to stick to it. So there's no sacrifice involved other than this kind of hill you have to go over just to kind of maybe hone and change things, modify things to get to your goals and get exactly what you want and just have that little learning curve if you're changing the way that you've been doing things for a long time. Like anything, it takes a little bit of shift. And once you have that shift in place, you can do anything. And it is such a good investment. You're investing in your future, in your everything you want, and you're just having the quality of life that so many of us really strive for.
Well, Julieanna, again, I said it before and I'll say it again. You certainly have a passion for what you're talking about, and you're certainly a person that lives what it is you're talking about as well. And I know I can appreciate that, and I guarantee you those that are tuning in can appreciate that as well. So with our last question, what's one final piece of advice that you would give to the busy professional? And I'm going to lump myself into this because I need to be better at following the advice you're giving. They know they need to focus more on nutrition and wellness, but they just feel overwhelmed. Like, I'll give myself an example. I'm up at 6 and I'm still here in the office working till, it's going to be past 8 and I'm going to get home and have a little bit of time and then it's bedtime and then, it's rinse and repeat. What advice would you give?
Yes, well, most of us are in a very similar situation. And my best advice is to keep it very, very simple. Don't overwhelm yourself. Don't make it complicated. Don't worry about macronutrients and calories and, perfection, because quite literally it does not exist. Make one choice at a time and celebrate all of your wins, because that which you focus on expands.
Wow, that's a great ending. That which you focus on expands. And I think we're talking now health, wellness, and fitness, but I think that same lesson applies to a lot of different things. Well, Julieanna, thank you so much for joining us today. It's been great having you. Again, appreciate your enthusiasm and your passion for the topic. Very thankful for all the wisdom that you've shared, the way you've been able to put such a positive spin on this topic and literally through your words, I think get a lot of people motivated to get behind the things you've talked about. Thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you so much, Kyle, for having me. It was great to talk to you.
Yeah, my pleasure. Folks, Julieanna Hever, thank you so much for joining us. And group, thank you for joining us as well for another episode of the HR Kyle podcast. As I always say, I appreciate a great deal for you tuning in week and week out. I hope that you're following us at this point. If you're not, I'm not sure why you wouldn't be, but that's just how I think. But if you're not, please take the time to follow us. That'll allow you to keep up on the episodes that are coming. We put a new one out every week. We bring experts in literally from around the world to talk about these topics that they're passionate about and they know about. So I want you to keep up on those. But again, thank you for tuning in today, and I'll leave you with these 3 thoughts. Stay focused, stay grounded, and stay tuned. Well, that's a wrap for today's episode of the HR Kyle podcast. We hope you found our discussion valuable and filled with insights that you can apply in your professional journey. Whether you're a business leader aiming to foster a thriving workplace or a job seeker looking to carve out your own path, remember that HR Kyle is the compass that can guide you towards success. If you enjoyed this episode, don't forget to subscribe, rate, and share it with your network. We're committed to being your trusted source for HR wisdom, and we look forward to having you back with us for our next episode. Remember, in the world of HR and professional growth, there's always room for progress. Be sure to visit our website at hrkyle.com. That's hrkyle.com to learn more about how we can help you meet your business and professional goals. So until next time, this is HR Kyle signing off. Stay motivated, stay informed, and keep reaching for those career goals. Music provided by bensound.com. That's bensound.com.